Hey, welcome to our live session today. We're going to be talking ACT again. So we've been talking about the ACT a little bit over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, it's coming up. Technically it's always coming up that we have dates on that. So what we want to go through is just how to make the ACT a bit easier to manage from a parent's point of view, from a student's point of view. How do we make this um, uh, easier to manage, easier to deal with? Because it's a stressful organization of activity to get ready for the ACT. So, and as we start doing this, it can feel like a full time job for parents as well as the students, because so much focus goes around doing the ACT, and it just seems overwhelming. You've got these 4 parts or 5 parts, depending on how you look at it, of the ACT. It's got the weird, say, especially if you've been homeschooled or something, but even in the school system, it's just a weird setup of how it's done, and it's kind of weird questions for most part of it. But the ACT is used for a couple of different reasons as we come into university type activity. Obviously, acceptance. We use this to get accepted. We use this um, to placement, what we would call, how we place into a class, which might be one of the most important things that gets overlooked. And then for scholarships. And depending on where you're going and what you're doing, there's formulas for, if you make this on the ACT, you get so much money. But probably more important, and what can have a bigger financial impact, is placement. Which math, which English do you get placed into? How many courses do you need to take at the university to before you can get into the real courses that you take? So, but look, the ACT prep is confusing. It's kind of hard to know what you should be doing. It's hard to get our students to pay attention to this. Um, it's no different in school systems or anything, unless the student is highly motivated. But it's a hard thing to know what to do. Having a plan of what to do is so critical to be able to do something. When you just throw somebody a big fat ACT book or something, um, even though they have some plans written down in there, it's just daunting. So the other thing is just getting it fit into the time that you've got. You've got your own stuff going on, you've got your classes going on, and you got to cram it in there. And it may not. I mean, for us, we just got back from a church event and missions activity last night, and it just seems like it's nonstop, and that you've got things to do that are important to do, that you spend your time on, but they suck all your time away, and you're wondering where it all went. So before we dive into, we're going to just talk a little bit about the course that we are offering. And so what we are posting, let's see if we have in the comments, we have a link to a course that we are doing. Actually, it's a live interactive coaching session that we are doing, where I myself will be coaching your students through the ACT math part. I'm not going to be teaching the math in the sense, because that doesn't matter, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. But with it, whatever math they have, they will be ready, and we will help improve their score. So but to kind of lay the groundwork, a little bit of things that we need to know about the ACT. Why does it matter? I hear so many opinions about this from different people and parents who have formed their opinion, oftentimes from hearing from other parents. Look, from the university perspective, where I sit, the whole thing is, can they perform well in college, and where do they need to start? That's what we care about. There are some other things we care about that have to do with the money flow, which might be changing with the current government of how the money flows. But the the those are the two main things: is, can they perform well in college, and I would say in particular, can they perform well in this particular discipline, and then where do they need to start? And I say discipline because if you're going to English versus music versus nursing versus engineering versus business, different requirements, different things need to be emphasized. So now when we talk about the math section, which is where I'm going to focus because it's so many people's subject of love, right? When we talk about the math section, this is not a test about working math problems. And so if your student is tired of sitting there for hours working math problems, that's not what this test is about. This test from the math section is about decision making based upon some basic mathematical knowledge. That's it. Can you make decisions in 1 minute or less, and sometimes in 30 seconds or less, of this problem based upon what you know mathematically? You don't really have time to work through the problems, so you need to know some basic things. And that's the hard part. The math part is one part that most people do not even finish filling in all the bubbles, or they fill them in randomly, which is also, if you're going to fill them in randomly, there's a good random way to do it, if you will. But likewise, if you let's step back a little bit, the science section is not about science. It's also about logical reasoning. It has a bunch of big science words. They don't matter. And knowing that is helpful. The writing, most of you don't even need the writing section. There's a written essay component, I think they call it. Most people don't need it. Very few colleges require it. Overall, the ACT is a test about time management, understanding some basic concepts, logical thinking. And it's designed that way. It's not designed for anything else. It's not designed it's designed, can you do those things? Because if you can do those things and you have enough math knowledge in your head and you have enough English knowledge and so on and so forth, you will perform statistically okay at the university. So, all right, so let's talk about what we are going to be offering, or what we are offering. It will start March the 11th. I think we are putting a deadline of March the 8th. So March the 8th will be when we will close this course, because just so we can make sure we get everybody what they need to get started. So March the 11th, we will be on here. We will do something with live interaction. And look, I understand we're dealing with teens, so we will have some highly outgoing and interactive, but most probably not, especially when a group of people they don't know. It will be a small group, so it's not like there's going to be hundreds of people on here. We will probably do something over Zoom, and we will just be talking through some of the concepts. I'll go over the outline in just a minute. And also, because just let's face it, people on Zoom calls, unless they know somebody really well, or even in a live classroom, don't say much of anything, and especially teens. They're welcome to. They're welcome to speak up and ask questions. There's a chat to ask questions, so they don't have to speak up. We will probably also do something where we can ask questions behind the scene. Most of our students don't use email and things like Facebook. We will probably do something like a Discord, and we'll just ask them what they want to use, where they can just ask questions and get what they need on their own terms. So we're going to do that. But what we will do here is we will record it. We will go over the concepts live. It will be on video. It will be recorded. You'll get a link to the recording. And in case you cannot attend, so you'll get that link to the recording and everything we're doing. So the other thing, so in this class, well, let me kind of walk you through the general outline of what we're going to be doing over the 4 weeks. And I'm going to say this is the 4-week strategy, except that we will bend it a little bit as we need to meet the needs of the students. But this is basically what we're going to be doing. In the first week, we're going to be talking primarily strategy of the SET. We will get into math, but most of it we'll also be talking about the strategy that helps you with the English and the science and all the sections. There's some similarity between them. Probably you have heard of the strategies before, or some of them, but actually doing them. So one thing that we're going to start doing on day one is let's look at some real problems And how do you strategize this? How do you think about that problem? How do you answer that problem in the allotted time or less? And what's the strategies for doing that? So we want to talk strategy, but demonstrate strategy also. So that will be probably what we spend most of our time on the first week doing, because that's the critical part. That is absolutely the critical part. We will also be talking about what they need to be doing between the videos and a simple plan for them. Some students don't mind sitting down for an hour at a time and working on this. Some, they're good at 15 minutes and they're about burnt. So yeah, we're going to adjust it and help them work out a system that works for them. So that will be key. The foundation will actually start that a little bit ahead over email and getting them some information that they need, or go ahead and set up a Discord or whatever we do. And we'll, as soon as we lock it down on the 8th, we'll be sending some information to get us started. So when we walk into week 1, we will be off and running. The videos, they're probably going to be, I mean, at max an hour. We're probably shooting more like 45 minutes because just the attention span. So week 2, we're going to dive into, it will be focused entirely in mathematics at that point in time, algebra and word problems, and thinking like the ACT. What is the ACT thinking like? Sometimes you get lots of words in a word problem, and you got 30 seconds to a minute. And by the time you read and process the words, your time is up and you haven't really thought about the problem yet. And how do you barrel through that? The other thing that ACT likes is word problems. So they'll have algebra, just, x plus y equals 36 type things. Then they'll have, word problems, and they do like to do those word problems. So in week 2, we will dive into that. And again, we will show some. We will be talking about, okay, here's the problem. Here's an actual ACT problem. How do you think about this? How do you make a decision on this? And what we want to teach them to do is the process of taking in the information that the ACT is giving you and coming to quick decisions. That is the key. The ACT, quick decisions that are right is helpful too. The week 3, we're going to be diving into the other side, which is the geometry. The ACT loves to throw geometrical figures at you that if you did a course in geometry, you might be doing a proof with it. You might sit down and do a lot of work with it, trying to figure things out. You don't have time for that. But it's kind of geometry and graphs are some of the favorite questions. They'll throw a graph at you. Which one of these equations fits this? And you actually sometimes have no other information to go on except here's this picture, here's some equations, and it becomes like a guess issue. It's not a guess issue. It's a just knowing some basic stuff. So it's one of the ACT's favorite things to do is to ask these kind of questions. And then the last week, what we're going to do is more or less a full simulation. This is what's planned. Again, we're going to adjust as we need for the students. A full simulation and some really talk about strategies for test day. Now, for most of your students, you've been through some of this already, but we're going to kind of drill down to the practicality of it. I mean, it's one thing to read about it, and we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be doing it live with them. So now that's kind of what. So that's the thing. Now, what else? What's the key? Why are we doing this? Is because it's easy to talk about this. It's difficult to do anything unless you've got a couple of factors. And 2 of those factors are you need a plan. You need step-by-step what to do. And that's what we're going to be providing them. What do you do to prepare for this? And you also need some accountability, which means we're all going to show up and we're all going to have done the same amount of things. It's not going to be overwhelming. We're just going to look at, a set number of problems each time and say, go look at these problems, go do these things. It's not like we're going to sit there for an hour a day working on this, because they have other things to do. So we're going to make this fit and yet improve their results. Because again, ACT and what I'm doing here is not about teaching them math. It's about teaching them to process what they already know. And they know more than they think they know. A lot of what we're seeing on the ACT is it's algebra, it's geometry, but logical reasoning is a big part of that. But the weekly accountability we're going to do is just to keep them moving, keep them so they don't fall behind. But the main focus here is, of course, keeping them directed to what really matters on the ACT, what moves the score up. Again, that's not me teaching the math or anything. That's us going through how do you make this test work for you. So we'll talk about those things. Like I said, it's going to depend upon the students. Some students will have taken the ACT already, and they're trying to move their scores up. Some students are trying to get into engineering, and so they need to move their math scores up. Some students are trying to get into, or they're just trying to get in the door of the university. For some, this is the first time they've done it, and it's hard to get them to sit down and do anything. We get that. So while I'm going to be focused on math, we will hit up on some of the other subjects because, again, there's a lot of similarity of what's going on. All right, so what we are doing here, though, we do have some spots limited. We're not going to have many students. I don't think we've set the hard number yet, but it's going to be a very small group. I'm going to guess we're going to shoot at 10, but somewhere around that. Like I said, there's not going to be 100 people that we're doing this. We will close it on March 8th. So once we hit the number, we'll just close it at the end. We will start on March 11th. Yes, that's what I meant. Okay, that's not what I meant to say. Yes, we're going to actually start the classes on March 11th, but by this Saturday, which will be March the 1st, if you go ahead and sign up by then, we will add this course to your Ask Dr. Callahan portal, so that when you get it in there, it will be a course that you can have in there for your future students. Everybody will be there, get the recording of it, but it's going to be in a link, but now it will be actually built in there for your future students, so you're not having to hunt that down. So we will set that up for you if you do that by this Saturday. March 1st. And let's see. Somebody had asked a question about AI test strategies. We will be talking about AI test strategies using ChatGPT and tools like that. But, if the students don't care and they don't want to do that, then we'll skip it, because some students are just scared of AI and they don't want to go there. And I get that. So we don't want to be learning something new. So, all right. So what we've got here is if you go over to there we go. If you go to that link right there, you will see that is our 4-week. I'm trying to make sure that was the right link. That is the 4-week class right there on the link. It's in the comments, and it will take you and get you access. As long as it's active, we haven't filled it up to whatever number we've got set in the system, because it will automatically shut. And I don't remember what number that is. When we start on the 8th, I think the 8th is a Saturday. Maybe it's a Sunday. But once we get the number and we close the door, we will be sending out some email to the email that signed up that said, okay, here's what we need to do to start. There'll be some things to do the first day before we get in there to get started. And then so when we can be off and running and make it as productive as possible for your students. All right. So don't miss out. This is what we're doing. This is the first time that we have done this live like this. we will, again, we have been asked to do things to help on the ACT, something we haven't done before. We've always done it with a partner. But hey, we're trying to respond to the needs and trying to see how we can help out. And hopefully, this is going to be a big benefit to you and your student. So the links are there. If you got questions about it, if you shoot us an email at support@askdrcallahan.com, you can comment here in the feed. And I think this will be on YouTube. You can comment on YouTube also when this goes up there. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Until then, we will be back here for you. All things working out. We will be back here next week on Thursday. Thank you.